Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 16th of February, 2026. My name is Graham Hughes. You're watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. Nice to have you with us. In the chat, we have got Gallifreyan Ren, who's going to be tidying her flat today. So enjoy tidying your flat over there. Plum is saying, hi, this sounds a bit heavy. That's fair enough. Listen, honestly, if you need to take some time to do your own stuff, then please go ahead and do your own stuff. There is a lot of shit going on in the world right now. Alternatively, you could watch something that you really enjoy. Do you know what I mean? Like a really good old film or something. I enjoy doing that. L Butterfly Effect, Pygmalion. We've got Diz in the chat as well. Martin Harrow. We've got Veg Pie in there. We've got Andy and Saz. Hello. Azina is in there as well. So welcome one, welcome all to the show. We're going to be talking about, obviously, Russia today. We are now 4 years next week into the 3-day military operation that Vladimir Putin embarked on the 24th of February 2022. Year 5. We're coming up to year 5, the 5th year of a war that the Kremlin expected to win in days. This war has actually gone on longer than the USSR fighting against Nazi Germany, which was from 41 to 45. This war has gone on longer than that. The failure of that original blitz has shaped everything that has followed. When a quick sort of decapitation strike collapsed, Moscow pivoted towards coercion through destruction and attrition. The front lines have shifted slightly. I mean, that someone worked out that literally a snail, would have made it halfway to Germany by now. Whereas the front lines are still pretty much where they were. The Russians have only captured a few meters in the last couple of years. And it's the central strategic problem for Russia remains the same after all this time. It cannot achieve decisive military victory at an acceptable cost because it cannot break the Ukrainian armed forces fast enough. So it's trying to break the Ukrainian society. Now, it's been doing this for a long time. Don't forget how what happened in Bucha, where these Russian troops went in and tortured innocent civilians. I mean, some of the things that happened there are absolutely horrific, and I'm not going to repeat them here. Also, when the city of Mariupol was under siege, when they took Mariupol, when they took Kherson, which was recaptured by the Ukrainians later on in the conflict, but that original capture of Kherson, some of the images that I've seen from Kherson, from people who live there, are just beyond horrific, because Putin, pretty much from the start of this, has not made any distinction between a civilian casualty and a military casualty. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He has the same kind of mentality as Adolf Hitler. You can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. But meanwhile, for the Russian civilians, I mean, despite the small incursion into Kursk by Ukraine a couple of years ago, I mean, they haven't suffered anything like what the Ukrainian people have suffered, because this war has evolved into something grimly familiar from recent Russian operations. If you can't capture the state, pulverize the civilians who live in it. And the result of this is routine attacks on energy, housing, transport, hospitals, schools, municipal systems that make daily life possible. And we've seen this strategic shift from maneuver warfare to punishment warfare. Early in 2022, the war was, by the Russians, aimed at regime collapse in Kyiv, airfields, government districts, special forces, rapid thrusts. When that failed, the Kremlin needed a different lever, and that lever became terror plus attrition. And not terror as a side effect, but terror as an instrument of war. And the calculation is to freeze the cities, especially in the winter, to exhaust air defences, to create refugee pressure on the rest of Europe, and and internally within Ukraine. Don't forget, there's a lot of internally displaced people living in Ukraine who lived in eastern Ukraine and had to move out because of the Russian invasion, and they're now living in western Ukraine. This presents Ukraine with a choice between hardship or surrender. And civilian suffering becomes a message aimed not just at Ukrainians, but at Berlin, at Paris, London, and unfortunately at the moment, Washington, where they seem to be lapping this up. Like Trump and his disgusting acolytes don't seem to give a flying fuck about the people in Ukraine who are suffering every day. All they care about is checking their bank balance each morning and seeing if they've made another £1 billion. Which is, all in all, a little bit dispiriting. But what is, for me, quite remarkable and uplifting in all of this misery is the actions of the Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people will fight to the last person. If they've said if the Russians do a total invasion, we'll fight them with shovels and spades. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to stop fighting because it's their home. It's the land in which they live. It's the land they grew up in, and a lot of this has backfired on Vladimir Putin, as we talked about before. He wanted to kick NATO into touch. He ended up getting Finland and Sweden to join, two countries with borders on Russia, to join join NATO. He's had some success in weakening NATO via his American stooges, his American puppets, his American saps, patsies, gobshites. They've done a good job, I guess, for Vladimir Putin, but they haven't stopped the war. They haven't stopped the war. And how many times are we going to see Vladimir Putin say, "Oh, we're going to have a ceasefire, we're going to have a ceasefire," and then he just violates the ceasefire within 1 minute of the fucking ceasefire? But let's talk about the energy infrastructure, because this has been the big story. There's a big story on the front cover of the Independence Day about this. Power stations, substations, transformers, transmission nodes repeatedly hit. These are not accidental targets. They're essential for heating water, for hospitals, for telecoms, and for industry. And the aim is a cumulative degradation. Repairs are made, and then they get hit again. They replace the equipment. They get hit again. They wear down engineers, the supply chains, the morale of the people. Well, that's the plan, at least. Modern grids rely on components that can take months or even years to replace. Destroying them is a long-term strategy, and winter magnifies the effect. Cold apartments, limited hot water, rolling blackouts, elderly people at risk, children at risk. This is why Ukrainian officials constantly ask for air defense missiles. Without them, their infrastructure cannot survive. And if the Russians take out a critical piece, it can take a very long time to get that back online. And this is the rise of the drone economy of terror. This war is kind of weird. It started in like World War One with tanks, World War Two, I suppose, with tanks, tank warfare for the first time in Europe in decades. This is the biggest loss of life of Europeans since World War II. This is the biggest conflict in Europe since World War II. You understand that, right? This has gone on longer than the Yugoslavian conflict in Bosnia and Croatia and Serbia and Kosovo. This has rumbled on for so long now, and the cheap mass-produced drones. So we've started with tanks. We've got all the way to drones in the space of just a couple of years. These drones are cheap, they're mass-produced, and they really have altered the balance. Not just, in the favor of Ukraine in some respects, because they're managing to strike targets deep in the heart of Russia. But the difference is that Ukraine are using their drones, by and large, to strike military targets, or at least infrastructure targets that are not going to kill innocent Russians. They're not taking out substations, electricity substations. They're taking out oil refineries, which makes more sense in the long run because that's going to affect the economic basis of the war. The more money that Putin, easy mistake to make. The more money that Putin gets, the more he can spend on the war. If it gets through oil and other commodities that Russia is selling on the black market, or through crypto exchanges like the one set up by the guy who lives in Thailand, who's just given £9 million to the refuck party. Nice work if you can get it. Some of these drones are decoys, others are designed to strike. Even interceptions cost Ukraine expensive missiles and manpower, and repetition is the weapon. The goal is exhaustion more than spectacle, really. There's no shock and awe in this. It is just the grind. Putin is obsessed with the grind, whether that's grinding down the Ukrainian people by destroying their energy infrastructure, or grinding down his own troops, because he has an almost unlimited supply of fresh, unwilling recruits from the prisons, the rapists and murderers that he's let out. Or he could just get some mercenaries from North Korea or sub-Saharan Africa. He could bring them over. That's fine. He doesn't care. Promises them the world. I've seen stories of Americans who've gone to Russia to avoid the wokeness, to get away from the wokeness of America, and they've ended up on the front line. Fuck around, find out. That's what I say. Martin Harrow, £2 super chat. Let's kick the week off. Thank you very much, Martin. That's very kind of you. Shinzed, I'm surprised that Trump isn't funding a giant space laser yet. It would be cool as hell and straight out of a Bond film. Hearing that Farage is a bit worried. Yet another far-right party has appeared to split the vote. Is this the new Rupert Lowe thing? He's a Rupert, isn't he? Rupert Lowe has started his own little party called Restore Britain or something, to make Britain great again. Oh, piss off. Sick of it. Do you know when Britain was great? 2012, the Olympics. That was when Britain was last great. And Liz Truss said, what did she say? She said that she thought it was the most disgusting display ever. That's what she said about the 2012 opening ceremony of the Olympics. She thought it was disgusting. Liz Truss, ladies and gentlemen. She's not all there. I don't think. Talking of Liz Truss, so there's been there's a guy called Johnny Russell who won the internet yesterday. Do you want to see what he wrote? Do you want to see it? Come on, I'll bring it up on the screen. In a moment, once my computer loads it up. Okay, here we go. This is Trump and former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom there at his golf course in Palm Beach, and Johnny Russell replies with the slug and lettuce. Very good, Johnny. You can retire now, mate. You're not going to beat that, I don't think. I think you've just won the internet forever. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, the slug and lettuce. Trump seems to have lost weight. Maybe he's on a diet. Maybe he's not on a diet. Maybe he's just about to die at diet. Maybe he's one of the two. Anyway, so back to the main story today. The cost of drones and the recent adaptations to these drones include higher speeds, varied flight paths, the use of cloud cover, attempts to identify air defense locations, follow-up attacks. The message to civilians is constant uncertainty. Sleep may be interrupted every night with air raid sirens going off, and also with the electricity going off, or the power going off. What the trend shows is independent monitoring shows that civilians killed and injured through 2025 compared with previous years has increased substantially. Some reports have it on the 28% increase, some it's 33%. The number of casualties per incident has risen, suggesting strikes are landing in denser or more vulnerable areas. And particularly shocking episodes includes hits on transport, residential blocks and urban facilities far from the immediate front line. Like, if they're fighting soldiers and weaponry and things artillery that's on the front line. Why are they firing missiles hundreds of miles into Ukrainian territory to hit people living in Kyiv? This is really shocking. Or Lviv. And analysts increasingly warn that the proportionality in war, the principle of proportionality across conflicts, and is being violated by Russia on a daily basis. There's no proportionality about this. They are taking out civilian targets and targeting civilians to kill innocent people who aren't fighting the war. That is pretty much the definition of a war crime. And unfortunately for us in the West, we can't be too smug about this. We can't go, oh, you can't kill people, innocent civilians during the war, because we kept doing that. We kept doing that in Iraq. We did it in Afghanistan. And that has eroded our moral superiority in this situation. And that's why we shouldn't go on daft military adventures around the world. When Britain did something good, right? Sarajevo, Mostar, going in there, good. Going into Kosovo, Pristina, going in there and saving innocent civilians. They didn't need to start bloody, firing rockets at the capital of Serbia. I know some bridges got blown up in Novi Sad, but in Belgrade, it wasn't like, let's go and kill some innocent civilians in Belgrade. That'll stop them. When we went into Sierra Leone, which was one of the big successes of the British military, because the war had raged on, this war that had come across the border. It wasn't even bloody Sierra Leone's war. It was Liberia's war that came across the border. Child soldiers, kids as young as 8 years old, committing horrific acts of violence, walking along with a fucking gun. I read a book about one of the child soldiers that he wrote, years afterwards. I think it was called Boy Long Gone, and it was one of the most grimmest fucking reads. But the I think it was the RUF, I can't remember. It was the rebel grouping. We're about to take over Freetown, the capital of Sierra Leone, and the British armed forces were sent in to basically evacuate the British people, the diplomats and aid workers and things from Freetown. And they realised it's just a bunch of kids with fucking guns. The sight of a British squaddy in his full kit and his full uniform, these kids saw them, just dropped the guns and ran away. I mean, again, it was one of those situations where you could achieve your objectives without running around just murdering innocent old fucking grannies for no fucking reason. But Putin's been backed into a corner here. He's running out of money. He's run out of allies. He's running out of support even in Ukraine, in Russia. Whisper it quietly. But he is. And these are the actions of a desperate man. He needs to just keep on this war of attrition, keep going after Ukrainians, because he thinks that the only way to win this war is by grinding down the Ukrainian people to such an extent that they give up. But I don't think they're going to. Honestly, this is the one thing that sort of gives me hope. The fact here we are 4 years later, and the Ukrainian people are just as adamant as ever that they're not going to put up with this shit, no matter what the dickheads in Washington say. Don't forget, it was only February last year when poor Vladimir Zelensky, whose country at that point had been under attack for 3 years by this disgusting neighbor who just wants to destroy everything that Ukraine is, thinks that Ukraine is a historic mistake, thinks that Ukraine shouldn't exist. He walks into the White House and he's given this dressing down by this drunk little twat, JD Vance, with his fucking eyeliner on and this disgusting mountain of mad flesh that there's Donald Trump going, oh, you're not going to win this war, you're not going to win it, you may as well just give up, you just give up. Like what? Like an away fan? Do you know what I mean? Like just screaming at the home crowd. Just give up. You're never going to win. What a fucking child. What an absolute child. We were talking the other day about the way that everyone on the internet is 12 now. I saw the best example of that yesterday. Right. I was on YouTube. I was on Facebook. I was flicking through Facebook for some stupid fucking reason. I don't know why I even look at it these days. It's just it's pretty much a sewer. But I try and make it so I just see what my friends have put up. But obviously, one of my friends have responded to this post, so I saw the post, and it was a picture of Trump, and it said, "I like Donald Trump because he pisses off all the people I hate." And I'm just looking at that going, everybody's 12. Everybody. That is the most 12-year-old thing that you could possibly put on the internet. Imagine the 65-year-old man who's living alone since his wife left him and his kids don't talk to him anymore. In fact, they'll probably move to Australia just to get away from the cantankerous old git. You imagine putting on the internet, like, for everyone to see, "I like this guy because he upsets all the people I hate." It's the most 12-year-old thing I could possibly fucking imagine. And you're not talking about just having a bit of bantery or having a bit of a laugh or using a few swear words now and again. This is like the mentality of these people. That Trump supporters, the Truss supporters, the Farage supporters, the Tice supporters, the fucking Rupert Lowe supporters, the supporters of that little Tommy 10 names, little fucking tiny Tommy. You know, they're all 12. They haven't progressed. So much lead in their heads. They're just smooth brains. And you're just thinking, like, what use are you? You know, I'm one of these people who believes that everyone should, you know, has a place in society. But these people, if they were in charge, they wouldn't allow themselves. If they were smart enough to know how fucking fucked up they are. But I mean, they don't. But genuinely, what is the point of these people? What value are they adding to society? "I like Donald Trump. He hates all the people. He upsets all the people I hate." All right, fine, cool. And you got to admire the stupidity of these people who like put that on Facebook. Because, like, I'm sure there's going to be at least one of their friends on Facebook who doesn't like Donald Trump. And they're like, "Oh, because you hate me." Okay, cool. Defriend the cock. Anyway, so, one of the other things as well, when we talk about the war, and one of the things I really wanted to talk about this, because I think we'll obviously be talking about it a bit more next week, because it will be the 4-year anniversary, is that one of the things that happens with wars, at the beginning, they're very shocking. We saw this in Syria. We saw this in Afghanistan. We saw this in Iraq. When the war starts, it's all over the news every day. It's a top news story every single day. But after the first few months, it can't really be the main news story every day because there's other things going on in the world. And we saw this in Gaza. Although people tried their best to keep it in the news, you know, as much as humanly possible. And to a certain extent, they were successful. But still, the news moves on, and people tend to forget. Oh well, there's still a war going on. Oh yeah, okay. And this outrage to what is happening, it dulls, and this dulling, it benefits the aggressor. It benefits the invading country, and like we keep saying this, but it's very true. If Russia packs up its weapons and goes home, the war is over. You know, there's no more war. If Ukraine pack up their weapons and go home, then there's no more Ukraine. Because Vladimir Putin's made it his stated intention to destroy Ukraine. He says Ukraine is a historic mistake. He genuinely believes that. He thinks it shouldn't exist. And I hate that. You know this. I will defend the existence of countries. I will defend countries having some fucking rock of land in the middle of a distant fucking ocean, if the people who live on said rock of land want to be part of Britain or France or Spain or whatever it is, or Portugal. If that's what they want, okay. If the people of Gibraltar, 96% of them want to be British, then okay, you can be British. It's not up for the Spaniards to say, no, we'll have that. It's not up for the Argentinians to say, oh, we'll have the Falklands. No, the people who live there don't want you in charge of their place. But at the same time, I'm not sitting here going, oh, you know, Spain shouldn't exist. Oh, Argentina shouldn't exist, should it? I mean, there's lots of Welsh people in Patagonia. Maybe Wales should invade Argentina and take it back for the people of Wales for whom it never was. And this is the thing, like, even going back to like the USSR, obviously, Ukraine was part of the USSR, and it was all one big country. But within that big one country, Ukraine was a separate republic along with Moldova and Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. There were 15. There were now 15 countries where the USSR used to be, but they were split up into SSRs. Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia. And when it was all one country, these little exclaves of one country inside another, there's a few exclaves of Uzbekistan in Kyrgyzstan, there was an exclave of Armenia in Azerbaijan, the Nagorno-Karabakh. It's not anymore. It's been taken over by the Azerbaijanis now. But that was home to a very important shrine or a temple or a holy place for the Armenians, Nagorno-Karabakh. But that when it was all one country, it was okay to have it was a little bit easier to have an exclave of a certain group. But Ukraine was distinct. Ukraine was always a separate SSR to Russia when it was the USSR. And then going back even further, it was its own independent state. This is the history that Vladimir Putin has created in his head. And whenever he's interviewed about it, he talks at length about this bullshit history that he's just made up. And it just makes me realize just how all over the world history is under assault. History is under assault. We were talking the other day about the lighthouse of Alexandria being burnt down. I think I was talking about it to Mike on Drawn Together. And the idea of the eradication of history, the burning of history, so we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened in that country, in that place, in that year, because the records were destroyed. And that history was eradicated by invaders, by people coming from outside, coming into countries and saying, no, we're not having that. We're going to get rid of it. We're going to destroy those records. And now we seem to be wanting to do it to ourselves. The history denial. You've got the people who are in denial of climate change. They're always the same. They're always the ones who are also in denial of history as well. So this isn't a case of people coming from some other place and destroying our history like what they're trying to do in Ukraine. For us, we're doing it to ourselves. They're doing it in America where they're rewriting what happened during the era of slavery, rewriting what happened in the lead up to the Civil War. And I think that is so disgusting and so reprehensible. It's absolutely reprehensible. And these fucking dickheads go, oh, you can't pull down a statue of a slave trader because then people won't know history. Fuck off. Honestly, just fuck all the way off. If you want to learn about history, study it. Study history at GCSE like I did. Study it at A-level like I did. Study it at university like I did. Get a fucking degree in it. If you want to study fucking history, sit down, read a fucking book. Just look at a statue and go, yeah. I suddenly know all about the fucking slave trade fucking triangle. I've been informed by this guy who I don't fucking know. Question about sanity. Well done for being a member for 29 months. That is awesome, my friend. That is absolutely awesome. Thank you very much. You're actually the best. You are the best. Did you know you're the best? You're the best. Essential book on tyranny and on UA Schneider. I'll have to have a look at that. Care to mention the library of Timbuktu? Timbuktu was a capital back then. I mean, it's not the capital of Mali anymore. It's Bamako, but Timbuktu was a meeting place of not just people and commerce, but ideas for centuries. I mean, the eradication of history, I think, is a really, really grim situation that we're in now. And isn't it weird that the same people who say don't pull down that statue because then people won't know the history, and you're like, but you're actively on a mission to pretend that things didn't happen when they fucking did. They fucking did happen. What do they call Pam Bondi in Australia? Bondi Beach. Yeah, very good. I like that. So anyway, we'll just get back to talk about what's happening. I'll try and wrap this up pretty soon, and we'll get on to the headlines of the day. But Russia is using psychological warfare as a policy. Children growing up are able in Ukraine are able to distinguish incoming from outgoing fire. That's pretty fucking tragic. It just shows how permanent the threat environment has become. Kids could do this in the war here in the UK. They could hear the sound of the aeroplanes, and they knew from the sound of the engines whether they were on an Allied plane, a Spitfire or something, or whether they were the Germans. The families are making housing choices based on which buildings might collapse first. The lack of sleep, the cold, and the uncertainty are designed to create political pressure on the leadership in Kyiv. Moscow believes a population under constant strain will eventually demand compromise. And yet, here's the thing, right? Again, hope in the darkest of places. Polling repeatedly indicates a large majority of Ukrainians still say they are prepared to endure. They're prepared to go on and just keep fighting as long as it takes. As long as it takes. You see, the problem is authoritarian regimes often assume democracies are brittle, but that's not real. That's not true. What's brittle are dictatorships. Authoritarian regimes are brittle because it's so unnatural. You've got to keep fighting every day. You've got to keep people under the cosh because people want to be free. People want to be able to do things without having to ask the state's permission, which is the future that Nigel Farage and his mates want for this country. They want to demand that women have babies. They want to demand, your papers to go to the shop to make sure that you're not from some other country. They want to demand the ability to, get rid of the European Convention on Human Rights, so that their goons can kick your front door in and murder your family because they don't like the look of you. That's the future that Nigel Farage and the people who support Nigel Farage want. They want death and destruction on the streets of this country. They're looking over to America. What's happening in Minnesota to white people, not committed any crime, to white US citizens. And I'm not saying that because they're white, their deaths are, their lives mean more or less than anyone else's. The reason why I'm pointing out they're white is because I think a lot of people who vote for these kind of fuckers are white, for a start, and they don't think it'll happen to them. So these weird little bastards who are following Nigel Farage now into the fire off the cliff, you first. He is setting this up so that in the future that they're seeing what's happening in Minnesota, and they're going, "We'll have some of that. We'll have some of that here. Yeah, that looks great. Do that, Nigel. We want that here, please." It's just what the fuck. That's really grim. That is really, really grim. Russia also believes that Western unity is temporary and that and it's vulnerable to economic costs, migration anxiety, and election cycles. And obviously, Russia has been investing I'll say a lot of money. It's not actually that much money in the grander scheme of things, but they've been investing money on trying to subvert Western democracies. They've been doing this for decades now. And civilian targeting is part of a broader political theory, the idea that eventually democracies will quit. But I think this is where Russia's got it wrong. I really do. I think that the more that they attack Ukraine, the more the Ukrainians are going to dig in the way that if you tell someone that they're wrong, they're more likely to dig in. If you present them with facts and evidence against the whatever it is they fucking believe, they're going to dig in. They just fucking do. And it's why it's honestly, it's one of the reasons why I don't do debates on this channel, because I just don't see any point, right? First of all, you're not going to convince the person that you're debating with ever. But even when people watch it, the people who watch debates, and you see this with the Jubilee debates or with debates that you see on TikTok, on YouTube, or even just on TV, if you go in to watch that debate with an idea in your head over the way the world is, it's very, very unlikely that the opposition person will make a point that you are going to go, "Oh yeah, that's got a point now. I've completely changed how I feel about this." I think it's a lot better to just talk about stuff, have a two-way conversation, not necessarily a debate, but a two-way conversation where we exchange, facts and information, and just talk about it. Because going into a debate, I don't know. I might be wrong. People might be swayed by debate, but I just don't. I just don't feel like it's a very constructive way of getting through to people, because people just tend to dig in, especially when you give them facts. Oh my god. Give someone who's fact averse. Give them some facts. And like, oh no. Anyone can write anything they want on Wikipedia. Yeah. I just wanted to say, I'm always amazed how cheap people in Western democracies have been bought by Putin and his allies. Yeah, I know, we're a cheap date, aren't we? Anyway, so peace discussions are continuing intermittently, with new meetings scheduled this week in Geneva. From Hughes' perspective, negotiating while under daily attack looks like bargaining with a gun to your head. But Ukrainian leadership fears any premature settlement without security guarantees simply resets the clock for another invasion. And Moscow used the appearance of participation in these peace talks, to present itself as reasonable, even while escalating pressure on the ground. And then you've got, the situation in America, where signals from Washington increasingly emphasize Europe taking greater responsibility. If US commitment wavers, Moscow may judge that time is on its side, and at some point Europe will go, oh, fuck this shit. But honestly, from the people I've spoken to in Europe, across Europe, about this, I mean, it does seem like people from all walks of life and all parts of the political spectrum, mostly, are just like, people don't like to be threatened. We're being threatened by America. They're threatened to invade Greenland. Obviously, Russia has already invaded Ukraine and annexed, attempted to annex a fifth of its territory. And I feel like most of the people I've spoken to and most of the reports that I've read, the constant belittling and the constant aggression that we're seeing from the East, from the West, and with Europe as piggy in the middle, it's turning people against the Russians, turning people against the Americans, especially the governments, and it's making Europe look more inward and like, okay, how can we sort this shit out? I did a whole thing yesterday about how this dickhead Marco Rubio turned up at the Moscow. Oh, could you imagine the Munich security conference on Saturday? And he said, change or die. And he was just being a prick. He was just being an absolute prick. And just tell everyone in Europe's just sick of it. We're just sick of it. Okay, cool. And then we had AOC and we had Gavin Newsom saying, "Oh, please, don't leave us. We'll be back to normal in 3 years' time." And I'm just thinking, okay. So, and any sort of hint of reduced support encourages further strikes, which is why I think that Europe has to stand resolute against Ukraine. But obviously increasing defense spending, obviously we've expanded NATO. We may see the loss of America from NATO at some point, but I think that the idea of NATO will continue on. And then we've got the Europe's sort of dilemma that they've got at the moment, which is that, or we've got, European states are funding large parts of Ukraine's defense and buying equipment abroad to sustain it, and they want influence over the negotiations. But the influence, that's been rode roughshod over by the fucking US, who are like, we don't want to pay any money to defend Ukraine, but we want to be having, bilateral talks with Russia to end this conflict. Not with Ukraine, just with Russia. And if Europe becomes the primary guarantor, then the financial and military burden on Europe rises sharply. But I think this is just what we've got to do. You play the cards you dealt. These are the cards we've been dealt. Through years of people thinking that Russia had turned the corner, that Russia had finally become the good guys. Yeah. they're just a snake waiting to pounce. And now they've pounced, and the whole of Europe has been shaken by the aggression of Russia and by the childishness of America, a country where its leader is 12 years old mentally, a little spoilt rich kid. The 4 kids from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the 4 evil kids from that, horrible kids, I should say, not necessarily evil, they're horrible, just all bunched together in a big evil fucking hunch of beastliness. But this Western officials are reporting heavy Russian losses and difficulties replacing manpower, which is, again, gives us hope. Territorial gains remain incremental for Russia. They're having real trouble. They're having real trouble sustaining this war. And this is why they're going after civilians more than ever before, because it's cheaper, it's easier. And they hope that they're going to grind the Ukrainian people down to a point where they're like, oh, fuck this. We need to give Russia whatever it asks for in return for the end of this fucking war. But, if you can take out the pillars of society, energy, housing, transport, emergency services, you can hollow out the resistance without necessarily winning on the battlefield. The 4 years on, Ukraine's endurance has been inspirational. It absolutely has. And I hate that this has happened to Ukraine. I hate this has happened to the Ukrainian people. I hate that we are stuck in the middle now between an America that couldn't give a fuck or could give a fuck, but only if Russia gets everything that it wants. And this aggression from the northern wastes of Asia, the Badlands of Asia, attacking our continent in a way that is absolutely reprehensible. That these people have raped and murdered and tortured civilians. They have gone out of their way to cause as much make life as horrific as possible for the Ukrainian people. And there must be punishment for this. I am so sick and tired of the rich and the powerful getting away with murder, literally murder, which is what you're seeing from the Epstein files. Here in the UK, we're seeing the British Prime Minister being, knocked down a peg or two by the Epstein revelations, even though he's not named in it. Donald Trump is named so many times in the Epstein files that people are suggesting we call it the Trump files, whose Epstein's name appears occasionally in. And they've clearly gone through these files and found out anything incriminating against Trump and taken it out. But his name still is there 30,000 times. Unfucking-leavable. So yeah, I'm hoping that in the coming months, as the seasons change, as it gets warmer in Ukraine and people have more ability to keep warm and feed themselves, I'm hoping that this and America's belligerent attitude pushes us further and further together into the arms of our European brothers and sisters, because I think that is the only way out of this. We have to work together in Europe, and I think first step towards that, let's get ourselves into a customs union with the EU. Then I'll have the single market, thank you very much, and then let's just fucking rejoin the EU. Because the morons got what they wanted, and it was shit. What a surprise. We told them it was going to be shit, and it was shit. So can we stop doing what the morons want? Can we stop arranging the needs of the village around the desires of the village fucking idiots? So, what else have we got in the chat? Fake keys to Starlink. I'm surprised Russia hasn't done something about Starlink. Yeah, because it becomes a bit more personal when bloodline oldies pop off, and mum was an only child, no aunts or uncles on her or cousins on her side of the family. That's some veg pie. Jamie Raskin said he found 1 million references to Trump. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's what he said in the deposition last week, wasn't it? When they were talking, was it when he was talking? I think it might have been an interview afterwards, actually. But that interview with Pam Bondi. I mean, I know we talked about it last week, but bloody hell, There's memes all over the internet now of going, the Dow is at 50,000. The Dow is at 50. Why don't you talk about the Dow being at 50,000? Just crazy. Ukrainian babushkas handing out sunflower seeds to the invaders to put in their pockets. Inspiring, says Dragons Marine. Yeah. So that the bodies can fertilize the soil. Too many satellites to do anything. A geosynchronous array would be easier. Plus, Russia can't offend SpaceX as Roscosmos is struggling. Saz, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. That's very kind. We need to rejoin the EU. It will solve a lot, says Alex French. Yeah. It will solve the fact that Nigel Farage is still able to live and work anywhere he wants in Europe. Anywhere he wants to live in Europe, he can live. And we can't. You and I can't. Unless you've got an Irish passport, in which case, wonderful. But the reality is that, most of us can't live in Europe anymore. We can't marry someone from Europe. He did. He married a German woman. He wants to take that away. He has taken it away from us. He's taken all these fucking freedoms away from us. We can't retire in Europe anymore. He can. He's got fucking millions. Point this out. One of the things that I do think gets through to a few of the fuckers is when you point out the fact that that's been taken away from them. Some of them go, I don't care about Europe. It's shit anyway. I go to fucking Thailand on holiday. Yeah, because we don't know why you go to Thailand, mate. But, yeah. In memory of Uncle Ken, who died this morning. Oh, I'm sorry, Veg Pie. Oh, Veg Pie, thank you for the super chat. That's really kind of you. I'm sorry you lost your Uncle Ken. Veg Pie, just sending condolences. And it's always shit to lose someone. It's always shit to, but I try and be a little bit philosophical in times like these and try and, I know it's difficult, but try and not be too sad that they're gone, but be glad that they lived and you had that time together and no one can take that time away. And it wasn't enough time. It never is, but at least you got it. At least you got that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Veg. Yeah. Okay, should we move on? Should we have a look at the newspapers? Trumpstein is a good title that Keith Oberman coined. Trumpstein. I like Trumpelstiltskin. Let's have a quick look at the papers. Let's go over here. Papers. Come on, papers. Thank you. First of all, we've got the Financial Times on the left here. In fact, we'll go to the Financial Times first. Oh, thank you. You're the best. That can be for Veg Pie. Let's have a look at the Financial Times first, because that's the first newspaper to come up, which normally isn't. It's only one of the last. One of the last to come up, but here we go. So first of all, we have Europe visit. Rubio fails to allay concerns. We discussed this yesterday on the Sunday sermon. Then we've got Kremlin enlists former Wagner Group agents for Europe's sabotage campaign. Spy chiefs tap Prigozhin network. Vulnerable recruits hired for ops aim to sow chaos on NATO soil. We've also got Starmer puts Musk on notice with new online safety laws to cover AI chatbots. We've got drone facilities promised to set Swindon buzzing again. A Ministry of Defence facility for testing drones in Wiltshire could turn a town that was once home to production of Spitfire fighters into a European centre for crucial technology. We do need to turn. We do need to make Spitfire. Make them have Spitfire colourings. Like I was talking about wind turbines having the colourings of Spitfires. This is something that we definitely need to do. And then we've got trusted FCA. What I don't know what that means. We've got the briefing here just above my head. We'll read through this. Red tape and hang on. Red tape on EU food and drink exports looks sticky. I don't know what that means. Sounds a bit weird to me. We've got car makers count EV cost. The turnaround in electric vehicle ambitions after the U-turn on US climate policy has resulted in a hit of $65 billion for the global car industry in the last year. Trump did that. Leveson firm on jury call. Former High Court judge said Brian Leveson has doubled down on his recommendations that ministers scrap juries for thousands of criminal cases to help stem the backlog, despite backlash from barristers and judges. Listen, if we are going to do this, and it's unfortunate if we have to do this. I really don't want them to have to do this, but I guess some things you can't change. But if they are going to have to do this, scrap jury trials for anything that could really result in a prison sentence of less than 3 years, it's got to have a sunset clause. It's got to be for 2 or 3 years until you get that backlog down. I think anyway. So next up, we've got Canada drafts arms drive. Ottawa aims to create 125,000 jobs by raising military spending to 5% of GDP over the next decade. Fucking hell, 5%, that's quite a lot. Shifting away from US arms makers, stepping up a Buy Canadian campaign, which is clearly necessary. And then we've got Canada drafts. I've done that one. Got Uber expands into Europe. The ride-hailing app is extending its food delivery business this year into 7 countries, including Austria, Denmark, Finland, and Norway, as it battles tech rivals for the rich market. The rich market. Extra tax alarms business. Extra tax alarms business. Sorry, I read that quite badly, didn't I? Extra tax alarms business. That's what it was. France's biggest companies face off a 7.5 billion euro earnings blow this year from the extension of a levy on profits. Oh, I just got the mute in just in the nick of time there for that sneeze. AI called in to count sheep. Australian abattoirs are adopting AI to count sheep. Oh, don't do that. Honestly, mate, don't do that. AI can't count to 10. Didn't you hear? And Mr. Tis says, wow, Canada. There's love going to veg pie. Oh. And Reverend Caffey says, hugs for veg pie. It's normal to grieve. We don't grieve over the loss of what we didn't love. Allow yourself a time for sorrow, being gentle to you. Joyful memories tomorrow. That's the front cover of the FT, the Financial Times. So we'll head over to the other papers now. We've got the Mirror here. They keep doing this where they have really low res pictures, because I think these are sent as PDFs, but the pictures are quite low res for some reason. But there you go. We've got the Daily Mirror here. When Kate knew Brothers Bond was over. We've got, after post office scandal, the Great British Water shame. Water firms are being exposed over horrific sewage spills by a hard-hitting new TV drama. I saw the trailer for this yesterday. It looks really good. Dirty Business features the story of Eva Preen, 8, who died of E. coli in 1999 after a beach trip. Her mum, Julie, said of the show, likened it to Mr. Bates versus the post office. It has fired me up. We've got the family, that live down the road. Advert for Vistaprint, sorry, get rid of that. They live down. I've really got to get an ad blocker on this fucking site, don't I? Does my head in. Yeah, just in case you forgot what the royals look like, there's some pictures of some royals, because you might have forgotten after seeing them yesterday. We've got the inside story of Lisa and Ant's reunion. I don't know who Lisa is. With all Epstein files now released, furious MPs say it's clear Andrew abused position as UK trade envoy to leak secrets. So what are the police waiting for? Police were last night facing mounting calls to launch a full investigation into Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's role as UK trade envoy. Yeah. So I hope he goes down. I hope him and Mandelson go down. I hope they go down for a long time. We won a couple of golds in the Olympics. We won a skeleton. We won a golden skeleton, which is nice. I mean, if you're going to have a skeleton, you may as well have a golden one. So yeah, that was good. So Tabitha Stocker and Matt Uh, is that his surname, isn't it? Yeah, on it. Yeah. What's the surname? Matt someone. He won the Matt what Weston. Matt Weston. Got it. Got there in the end. They won the gold in the skeleton. I'm sorry, but the Winter Olympics is just fucking bonkers. The games, the events that they have are just crazy. Like they make no sense. But then again, I suppose they have dancing horses at the Olympics. But like the Winter Olympics, it's just bonkers. That two men sleigh where one lies on top of the other. You know that can be mixed. You know that could be a woman lying on top of a man, but they always choose to have two men lying on top of each other. Do you know they've run out of condoms in the Olympic camp in Italy? They had 10,000 condoms and they've run out already. It's quite impressive, isn't it? King Charles should bring back Harry from America to improve the royal images, I think. Well, yeah, I mean, but the Gam-Gams hate him. The Gam-Gams hate Harry for some reason. You know, the war hero. The war hero. And on the front cover of the Daily Star is a story about the appeal for the king to save the Vereshwami, the oldest curry restaurant in the UK, which has been open since the 1920s, and it's like near an arch or something, and they're gonna rebuild they're doing some kind of like, I don't know, they're doing it up, they're restoring it, but in the meantime they're gonna get rid of the restaurant, which I don't think is a good idea. Just saying. So we'll move over to the Daily Express now, unfortunately. Sorry for the Daily Depress over here. Olympic gold, double J. We've got councils told to prioritise well-lit routes where women walk, travel and wait. Switch on the lights to make streets safer. Switching on off street lights at night is to save money, is putting women and girls at risk, campaigners warn. Pedestrians also feared that to be at greater risk on road collisions when councils dim or switch off the lighting between 1 and 5 a.m. to cut costs. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, right? Here's the thing, right? Street lighting is the way it is. Street lighting is the way it is because the powers that be twats, they want to light up the cars. It's for cars. It's not for pedestrians, right? Pedestrian lights could be lower. They don't need to be so high, and they don't necessarily need to be so bright. And they can light up the road pretty effectively without causing too much light pollution and wasting too much energy. But unfortunately, we have lampposts that are set up for the cars. They're set up for the cars. They're set up to light up the road because everything we do in life is set up around the physique, the ergonomics, the wills, the machinations of cars, of those, inanimate objects. Well, I suppose they're kind of animate when they're moving. But, those objects that don't have any soul or personality or life. We have to have lights for them, but no lights for the pedestrians. So yeah, I would like to see more lights, especially in areas where people walk home, women walk home. And there's a picture of Dua Lipa there, in case you forget what she looked like. Privately educated, of course, because that's how she got to be famous. I'm not saying that that's the only way to become famous, but it's one of them. So we've got the Times over here. We've got an interview with Giselle Pellicot. In her own words, and also we've got workers' rights reform push a third of employers to cut hiring. It's another scaremongering story from the Murdoch-owned Times. They're going to sack everyone, which isn't more than a third of employers are set to cut back on hiring. Notice the weasel word there. Notice the weasel word in the top left corner there. Set. That's what they say. Set. I'm not going to do it. They're just set to do it, apparently. If you need a brainwave, old and steady trumps youth. Whether it's supermarket or in the workplace, it's a cliche that the old people are frustratingly slow. Is it? Under 16 social media ban may happen this year. Okay, fair enough. You know my attitude towards this. I'd rather we didn't have a fucking ban because it does seem like a blunt instrument. But at the moment, social media is just the fucking Wild West. And children as young as 8 are being exposed to the most fucked up things on the internet. And yeah, something needs to be done. I would like a better scheme, but this will do as a bridge in the meantime. Until we get what I want, which is little phones. I want everyone to have a phone. They want they want the right to mistreat us. Yeah, they do. They do. Don't cars have lights attached to them? They do. Really bright fucking lights that blind everyone. Yeah. They're LEDs now, street lights. They could be run on different levels. Well, if you've got a street light, the problem is that you often have street lights where it's positioned on the curb is important. If it's on the sort of next to the and the wall or whatever, at the edge of the pavement, it then lights up the pavement. But if it's literally on the curb, it's just lighting the road, isn't it? It's just like a little bit of extra light might get onto the pavement just about, but positioning is important, and also having a light further down. So if you do have a light for cars that's up that high, what you could do theoretically, I guess, is use the same lamppost, but just have a light facing the other way, so that's for the pavement, and you can make that a bit lower. Oh, anyway, so yeah, there's a few things you could do. By lower, I don't mean lower intensity. I mean like lower down on the pole. I'm going to be told now that it's not called a pole. It has a specific name. It's not a pole. It's a post, from pillar to post. Where my wife's family live in France, the sister street lights off about 10 p.m. Nice and safe for women and girls out late. Yeah, exactly. They introduced the LEDs dim to save energy. Then you had to light outside our house to see dough. Orange lights used to light up wider areas than the LEDs. What, the phosphorus lights? Nah, I don't think so. They were pretty dim, Who is walking around between 1 and 5 a.m.? Drunk people coming back from town. So over to the iPaper here. We've got UK to cut Russia defence fund as Kremlin poison threat revealed. Government will slash vital funding to counter Russian operations against the UK, despite concerns over Moscow's growing aggression, and claims poison was used in assassination. This is to do with Navalny, who was murdered with frog venom. Frog poison. Opposition parties called changes to the Integrated Security Fund deeply irresponsible, but Minister insists spending will focus on the most acute threats to UK national security. Britain and allies plan sanctions against Moscow after announcing that Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny was poisoned with toxin found in South American frogs, and former British Army commander countering chemical weapons warns Russia has an advanced program. We are likely to see more of it because it is so effective, which is, again, really fucking grim. Grim tidings. And social media here. The middle one there. Starmer sets up for Musk showdown. Crackdown on AI and infinite scrolling, because we don't want the infinite scrolling. The scrolling must be kept at bay. Stop scrolling so infinitely, you infinite wankers. And then we've got the Metro over here with the golden moment of history. And then we've got Cooper. Truth is antidote to Putin's poison, as critics frog toxin murder revealed. Foreign Secretary urges new sanctions as science links Russian leader to Navalny jail murder. And there's Vladimir Putin behind frog poison plot, says Yvette Cooper. So that's a story that I hate the way some of the newspapers are just like reporting something that we knew like 2 days ago, and they're like, "This is news," and I'm like, "Oh, it's not really, is it? We already knew about that." The Independent here, and this is what I was talking about today. This is where I got the idea for doing what I talked about today. As world leaders wring their hands over Ukraine, this is the reality of daily life in Kyiv, battling to survive winter, as Putin's latest strategy targets power supplies. It's dark, it's cold, it's endless. But Putin won't live forever. Putin will not live forever. And when he goes, please let this be an end to it. Let this be an end. I'm really looking forward to the day when there is no Putin, there is no Trump. Don't have to look at Trump's god awful face every day, every single day. I can't. I look at the news each day, and there's always a story about Trump. Yeah. Um, I just wish he would go away. Yes, Starmer was McSweeney puppet, says Mr. Tisk. Well, he's gone now, isn't he? And Martin says, my ex's family have a street lighting company. You see them all over Liverpool. Oh, that's cool. I get the impression that the dithering was McSweeney. As a child, we always had a new torch for one of our Christmas presents. They make a handy kosh too if attacked. Yeah, maglite torches. They can be pretty brutal when they want to be. Cooper always looks depressed. I always felt that about what's his name? The what's his name? The former prime minister, Gordon Brown. He always looked so fucking miserable, didn't he? He always looks so bloody miserable. You'll think we're all deranged, said Sean. The way we're going in some respects, mate. I mean, yeah. It's all just a bit grim. It's all just a bit brothers grim. So the technology secretary has said today that the ban on social media for under 16s is not inevitable, but they are consulting on it at the moment. And there was another story today that I wanted to talk about, and it's a bit grim. So trigger warning, serious trigger warning. There's an article today in The Guardian, and it's about domestic violence. It's about suicide. So please, if you feel like you'll be affected by this, just switch off. It's fine. Give us a like on the way out, and you come back later. I'll probably be finished yakking about it in about 5 minutes. Research has shown that that official statistics could track as few as 6.5% of the true number of cases of female suicides in the UK with domestic abuse at their core. The number of women who are driven to suicide by domestic abusers is being underreported, and their cases are being overlooked by police in what has been described by experts as a national scandal. Domestic violence suicides are already growing at such a rate that women in an abusive relationship are now more likely to take their own life than be killed by a partner. This is horrible. 2 years ago, I got the horrific news that a close friend of mine had taken her own life, and that was as a result of a abusive relationship that she was in. The guy was actually held in jail. He was found guilty in a court. He was given bail before then, and as soon as he got the bail, he went round to her house and started banging on her door. And then he got sentenced, but it was only a short sentence. And I called up my friends in the legal profession when I found out what happened and said, is there a law against driving people to suicide? And they all went, no, there isn't a law against that. Because you can't prove in a court of law what was going through someone's head at the time they took their own lives. If the figures in just Kent reflect the national picture, it could mean as many as 1,500 victims of domestic abuse are taking their own lives every year, up to 15 times as many as previously thought. And the data it is showing that campaigners have called for all suicides where domestic abuse is suspected to be investigated as potential homicides from the outset, to ensure the best evidence is collected and preserved. And lawyers believe this number shows coroners have been too quick to dismiss deaths as suicides without properly considering whether they could be unlawful killings. They talk about the case of Katie Madden at an inquest. Her former partner, Jonathan Russell, admitted to he'd given Madden a black eye, and hours before her death told her to kill herself. No criminal investigation into Russell's role in Madden's death has been launched. In many cases, prosecutors do not see a basis for investigating wrongdoing and fail to bring any criminal charges at all after a domestic abuse suicide. It means alleged abusers are rarely investigated for offences such as violence or coercive control, despite a wealth of evidence often being presented to a coroner at an inquest. Families have also found police have dropped domestic abuse investigations after the victim has died. Like I say, there's an article about it. I'm going to put it into the chat if you want to read it. But it is just it's absolutely fucking heartbreaking. I'll pin it to the chat if you want to read that. Okay. All right, we need a nice story now, don't we? we won a couple of golds in the ridiculous Olympics. I mean, I meant the Winter Olympics. Police have never been good at detecting coercion within relationships, so I guess this underpins the failures. Yeah. There was that woman in America who was convicted of pushing her boyfriend to suicide. I can't remember what sentence she received. And Richie Goth, a trigger warning, he tried to unalive me before the end of the relationship. The cop said there was insufficient evidence. I'm sorry. Sarah says, I feel a breaking point with all the trans hate and facing homelessness, and I can't get any help from the council or my mental health team. Sarah, if we can help you out in any way, please get in touch and see if there's anything we can do to help. I know you're facing a lot of difficulties right now, and the ruling from the High Court in the Good Law Project's case on Friday was absolutely fucking horrific. We're going to do an in-depth discussion into that on a special episode of The Intersection with Rachel Harris, and she's going to be talking to Hannah Janes about what this judgment means. The good news is that the Good Law Project are going to continue fighting as long as it takes, because the current wave of trans hate is being paid for by either foreign billionaires, oil companies, or tyrannical children's authors, and it won't last. It won't last forever. All I can say is that this too shall pass. It will, because this fucking judgment from Friday is just bonkers. Me and Phil talked about it a little bit on the show on Friday. Not enough, but I mean, the idea that you're working in a bar and if you're a trans woman, you can't use the women's toilets, but then you finish your shift and you buy yourself a lemonade, then suddenly you can use the women's toilets. What? Because you're a punter. You're a customer. You're not a worker. The fuck? And from the video that I saw yesterday of Jolyon Morn talking about the case, it sounds like the fucking judge was just Cecil B. Demented. Like, how can one man have so much fucking power over so many people and their lives and the way, so yeah. Sean says, mine moved on. It's awful knowing someone else is going through it. I tried to warn the new boyfriend, but got warned by the abuser to butt out or else. I'm sorry, Sean. If you ever win, I feel we've lost the hate out. There is now mainstream, and when the politicians are going after trans people, then people on the street will feel they can as well. Yeah, this is why we have to present a united front. This is why, especially those in the LGBTQ plus community, need to be working together on the on fighting this. You know, I mean the fact that so many people, and you've got a health, you've got a Secretary of State for Health who's gay, and he's not, like some fucking ally he is. Fucking prick. He fucking winds me up. But since the judgment of the Supreme Court last year, I'm seeing more and more people actually stepping up and talking about this and talking about trans issues. Next month, we've got Transmission in Wembley Arena, where some really big acts like Kate Nash and also Wolf Alice, who are red hot at the moment, they'll be performing on stage along with a host of other acts. I'm hoping that and more things like that will raise awareness of like, what's the problem? What is the problem? Like what? You've got to ask people like if their mind is their own, because I guarantee if you find someone on Facebook who's got this huge problem with trans people, ask them to show you a post from 10 years ago. Go on the the memories fucking thing. Right, go get them to search through their messages, their things, right, the news articles that they shared from 10 years ago, and find a single one about trans people. There won't be one. There won't be one. They've just been told to dislike trans people by the media and by the oil companies. And it's so important that we keep fighting this and we keep raising awareness of the fact that people are being manipulated into hating a group of people who've done nothing fucking wrong except exist. So there's no protest in the Tory papers that this weird judgment means pubs are going to have an extra toilet. Yeah, save our pubs. What, are you going to save them the 30 grand it's going to cost to put in a new fucking toilet? Absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Yeah, I'm just reading through some of the chats here. Everyone's free to lurk. Everyone's free to lurk. You do not need to jump in the chat. If you do want to jump into the chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button. So by the way, the episode of The Intersection, we're filming that tonight, but it's going to be a pre-record, so it'll go out, like the Sunday Roasters as a premiere. So that'll be going out tomorrow, I think. So I'll let you know. Yeah, we're still going to be doing tonight at 9:00 stateside. I hope with me and Scott, our tamed American, and yeah, we'll be talking about just Trump's approval ratings down a bit more. It's 36% now. Sorry, there's only 36% approve of him or something. I think that's how they work out the rating. It's like, how many people approve of him? 36% of the population. Still a bit too close to 40 for my liking. And Alex French says, gay and proud to support my trans friends. Good on you, Alex. Good on you, mate. All right, going back to lurking in my swamp now. Enjoy your swamp, Richie Goth. Sending love. And especially to Sarah, sending all the love over to Wales. I've got your, while I'm remembering to do stuff, I've got your autographs. I've got your autographs to send. I need to get that done today. So I've got a bunch of stuff to do around the house, and also I've got to go to the dentist today. I'm off to the dentist. I've been waiting 6 months for this checkup. I called in August last year to ask if I could get a checkup, and they went, yeah. We've got an appointment on the 16th of February 2026. Good job I'm not in pain, eh? Hate is a drug. The hate dealers are the worst, says Ernie Burns. Yeah, it is a drug, but it's not even a drug that like makes people happy, is it? It just makes them more sad and angry, bitter. All this fury that people have for no reason. Good luck at the dentist, Graham. Yeah, I hope I don't need any fucking fillings. Jesus Christ, I don't have the money. I had to sacrifice a kidney to pay for a filling. Pass the parcel. Pass the parcel. What? Sean says, bye all. I've been up all night with tinnitus. Oh, Sean. I'm sorry. Sending love to Sean as well. Tinnitus is really not fun. Can Scott stay awake tonight, says Martin Harrow. I don't know. I hope so. Maybe we should do the show a little bit earlier. I might talk to Scott about that. So, do you want to do it at 7:30 or something? He's like yawning for the whole thing. But yeah, we'll see what he says. And Oliver Brown says, proud of my trans brothers and sisters. You and me both, mate. You and me both. And considering all the shit that trans people have just had dumped on them for no reason other than the oil companies want us to stop talking about climate change. So they span the wheel of hate and it landed on trans people. That is the only reason why people have a problem. The trans community is full of the kindest and most generous and most loving and pleasant people you'd ever hope to ever meet. And I'm just bereft that this has happened, because not much I can do about it, about the people who are saying all this stuff. I wish there was. I really wish there was. I wish I had the money, had the power to tell them to shut the fuck up, go after them, with all means necessary. Lawfare the arse off them. But if you are an ally and you're affected by this and you want to try and help, please consider going to the Good Law Project's website and giving some money, because they're now having to pay a £300,000 court costs. They're having to pay all the costs, and also they've got to pay their lawyers on top of that. So if you go to the Good Law Project, I'm going to make that the pinned message as I head out of here. So look, I'm going to leave it at that. We're coming up to about 10:30. I'm going to have some breakfast. Trying not to get too much food stuck between my teeth, isn't it? Never pleasant if you go for the dentist, if you go with food stuck between your teeth. So yeah, I'm going to have some granola. That gets stuck between your teeth, doesn't it? I used to mistake what I thought was hate turned out to be extreme exasperation, liberating. That Restore MP bastard watched his video on YouTube. Awful, says Mr. Tisk. Is that the Matt Goodwin creep? What a tit. What a tit. It's going to make people pay more money if they don't have kids. Fuck off. You already get tax credits if you have fucking children. But the idea that you pay a bit less tax and so you should have kids in this day and age is like ridiculous. But it just goes to show what a rarefied bubble these motherfuckers live in. They don't understand what it's like to live day to day for most ordinary people. They haven't got a fucking clue. They live in a fucking gilded cage. Actually, it's not even a fucking cage, is it? They can go anywhere they want. Oh, the old guy, not Goodwin. Oh, I'll have to check that out. Thanks, Graham and chat. You're wonderful people, says Oliver. And a heart. Oh, well, thank you. And yeah, let's give some love. Give some love to everyone today. Take care of yourself. And if there's something that you enjoy doing, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, go spend some time on yourself today. And if you need some help or support, there's always the Discord server. If you are not a member of the channel, you don't have access to the Discord server, but you would like access to the Discord server, please just give me a shout. Go to grahamdavidhughes.com and there's a contact box at the bottom of the page. Hit that and I'll give you access. Rupert Lowe, Restore is a new party. Yeah. So we've got Reclaim, Refuck, Rejoin EU, and yeah, and restore what? Rupert Lowe, privately educated fucking Rupert, doesn't know what the hell's going on. Remember, this is it, not a rehearsal. That's very true. As the Verve once put on the front of their single for history, life is not a rehearsal. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. I'll be back tonight at 9 o'clock and maybe a little bit earlier. So I'll tell you what I'd like you to do. If you could just, first of all, give us a like, because we always like a like on this channel. hit the little thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and if you are subscribed, hit the bell notification icon. And if Scott and I decide to do an earlier show tonight, then quid's in. So thanks very much for everyone for watching this morning, and until I see you again, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and